Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Afternoon Snack Podcast. I'm doing the intro because I always do the intro because Alex refuses to do the intro. Why is that?
I guess I tend to stumble over my words a little bit, and there's more pressure on the intro because I don't know exactly what to say.
I mean, like, I've done it however many episodes there's pretty much a template.
I did do it that one time.
Yeah.
And you made fun of me. So now
I kind of sprung it on you, though.
You did.
I've heard this thing a while back that one of the hallmark traits of an introvert is that when they have to think in order to talk versus an extrovert who has to talk in order to think. So I wonder if that's part of your struggle also, being more on the introverted spectrum than I am.
Yeah, I would imagine that is partially the case.
Yeah. I think that's one of the disadvantages introverts in like interviews and social scenarios, because someone asks them a question and where the extrovert just starts like blurting out whatever and is immediately engaging, the introvert sits there like a kind of a weirdo, just like, please give me a moment with my thoughts. But
or I just get up and leave.
Yeah. Like, okay, I'm done here. Anywho, all right, so what are we talking about today? Let's do general overview and then we'll get into it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about we'll review what our thoughts were on the CrossFit Games.
We're going to review the CrossFit Games.
Just our thoughts.
Yeah, we've had some people ask, and it's interesting because we're like involved with it, and we'll talk about that. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I liked it. And then we're going to talk about
the most annoying thing of all time, and it's why we can't stop craving M&Ms.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be like, it's going to hit home with some folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking in the car, I have even more examples of, I mean, we won't get into it. I don't want to spoil it, so we'll save that. All right, so 2020 CrossFit Games. If you don't follow along, like, there was a period of time where it looked like they weren't going to happen. Because it was like, all right, so all the sanction events got canceled with absolutely no plans to have them. So it's like, all right, the games are going to go online. Are they going to be in person? Is it going to be top 20, top 10? How's it going to work? All right, it's going to be top 5 at the ranch, and then everyone else is going to go online. And so I think like a lot of people, I didn't know what they were going to be. I didn't know.
I was sitting here like, just cancel it.
Yeah, you were. That was like way back. Like, just cancel it.
I'm like, everybody else is canceling it. Just give up on it, you know?
Well, I think the struggle was like when you compare the games to, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, the NBA made it happen. Or like the NFL is going on, MLB, that kind of thing. And it's
but they weren't for a long time.
They weren't. Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, if everybody else is like canceling.
Yeah.
Like, why hasn't the CrossFit Games?
Well, and it's like hockey completely canceled. Like, just pulled the plug. And then, NCAA basketball was gone. The NBA schedule got pushed. Like, it just, all these sports, like these big sports organizations made it very public that they were not interested in having events like in COVID time unless they could absolutely ensure that they were safe. And then, like, the summer kind of went on, and all right, so the NBA kind of invented this whole bubble idea, and it's like, what the hell? Is there an actual bubble? Like, what is the bubble?
Well, there's COVID in the bubble.
Yeah, COVID got in the bubble. Well, not the NBA.
Oh, okay.
So the NBA,
the MLB,
baseball failed at the bubble.
Yeah.
NBA was really the only organization that was successful with the bubble idea, and then arguably CrossFit was, because as far as I know, there have been no.
I mean, has it been? It's only been 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know, but they kind of adopted the bubble idea from the NBA. And so, but anyways, that's a bit of a tangent. All of these organizations, NBA, MLB, NFL, like they have like millions and like basically an endless amount of money with which to create, you know, whatever infrastructure they want. And you have CrossFit, who's just kind of the little guy. But anyways, I thought it went off well. I thought the online portion went as well as it could have gone. It was different. A lot of people were very upset that it wasn't like Rogue because it wasn't live streamed. it wasn't as entertaining to watch. There was the live, the live leaderboard reveals. But it wasn't like Rogue where they had 4 or 5 athletes on the screen at once, all going quote unquote head to head.
Yeah, but that was the only way. I mean, everybody knows this. The people who complain, most of them knew at least that it needed to be done the way it was done for it to be fair.
I don't think they knew it needed to be done that way to be fair.
But, I mean, once you told them, they were like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, as an athlete, like I wouldn't want to be getting up at, in the middle of the night to do a workout, or even, having to do a workout at 6, 7 a.m. would be brutal. So I think it was the most fair way for the athletes to be as competitive as because there's a lot on the line. Like there's more money on the line than Rogue. You get prize money for winning events. Like you have to put everybody in a situation where they can do their best. And that means, unfortunately for spectators, you're not going to be able to watch it live. Like you're not going to be able to see people go head to head. And also like you obviously can't live stream someone's event if their competitor who is 8 hours, behind them can then watch it and understand how to do the event. So I thought it was good. I was really interested. Like the girls you kind of knew who the top girls were going to be.
I would argue against that. Like there are so many top competitive girls and guys that in the top 20, like really you had I didn't have any idea.
Okay. I guess
like you kind of knew Tia was going to get in.
Yeah.
That was a given. But then like I didn't think Haley was going to get in, especially with like a max front squat.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure. Like, I mean, you look at, there was a lot of girls who didn't get in who definitely could have been at the top.
Yeah.
Like Cara Webb was close. Jamie Green was in the mix. Then there are people like Christy Aramo, like
Andrea Niesler. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess what I should have said is I was a little bit more surprised by the men's lineup than I was the women's. Yeah, because you could make the same argument on the men's, and you kind of got a kind of a weird collection of guys in there. Not like weird, just not the top 5 that I would have picked. Like maybe I would have picked Katrin to be in the top 5 with the girls because she's fairly consistent, but like. Yeah, really only one of the guys that were in the top 5 would have been who I'd picked, and that was the obvious one, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, I thought the coverage was great for the CrossFit Games. I thought it was really, really good. Probably some of the best coverage that I've seen to date. And like, again, with only 5 athletes, 5 men, 5 women, it is a little bit easier to cover that field. But I thought it was really cool. I thought the events were great. Like top to bottom, really nice events. The first event, what was the first event?
2007.
Yeah, the bar muscle up, the row into the 5 rounds of bar muscle ups and shoulder to overhead. That's one of those events that kind of shows you how good the field is. Because that's not an event that I look at and I'm like, people are probably going to break that early. And then you get to like 3 or 4 rounds in and there are still people going unbroken on it. It was wild. Which kind of like, that was like, all right, so that's how this is going to be. What was your favorite event?
I thought the run with the ranch loop was the best.
Yeah.
I loved that he surprised them and made them go again.
Yeah.
I just thought that added a whole other element to the CrossFit Games.
You could kind of see it because he's done that before, I think, in like one way or the other. But it was like way back at the ranch when there weren't. You can't do something like that with a large field of athletes.
No.
But I thought it was pretty cool, especially the women, because it was like Haley and Tia together, and I think like obviously Tia came in ahead of Haley for the first half of that, but I think Haley made her work for it.
Yeah.
A lot harder than I think people realized. And like Tia just kind of lost it. Like she did not want to go again. And that's where like, I guess Katrin was, they did an interview with Katrin. It was like, what was your emotion when you kind of found out that you're going to have to turn around and run it again? And she was like, I was excited. I was looking forward to it. And I think that's where you saw like she really performed well there because of like just the way that she is mentally. And that's not to say Tia isn't mentally strong. I just think she really had to push herself to beat Haley on the first half. And then Haley just kind of cruised because she's a phenomenal runner.
Yeah. I just, for the whole field, I thought it was great to basically double the workout without them knowing it.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading comments online on Instagram about it, and people were saying like, oh, that's so dumb. It's like, yeah, but that's part of the CrossFit Games. Like, adding another element, that workout where some of the athletes had no idea what the workout was going to be in 2018.
Oh, chaos. Yeah.
Chaos, like stuff like that tests an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being able to adapt mentally and physically is a really cool way of testing fitness.
It's probably the most difficult component to test.
Yeah. I remember I was training. I did this like training camp, just like an in-house one with a few guys and a few girls at OPT. And I had it. One of the tests was a 10-minute assault bike test for calories. Mm-hmm. And you got off the bike. So 3 of us girls did it. And then we got off the bike and the guys went immediately after, like right away. And we got off the bike and our coach was like, you have 10 minutes to recover and you're doing it again. And I had the same response that Matt Fraser had to Dave Castro. And I was like, what? No, that's a joke. Yeah. He was like, I'm not kidding. And I thought like, there's no way I can match even close to that effort. Cause like you've maxed out. Yeah. And I got on there and I got pretty much the same number of calories. It's quite amazing. Like, what you can do.
Yeah. What's that the idea of like, of endurance and really it's more that the concept of motivation. Mm-hmm. And it's I mean, like Mike would be the one to talk about it, and I think he has, but it's that, the central governor model versus the psychobiological model of motivation. Mm-hmm. And it explains like I guess it's Tim Noakes who proposed this idea that your body self-regulates, and it'll never let you tap into like your actual physical potential because it doesn't want to risk death or whatever happens if you do that. And then, this other model of motivation kind of suggests that's like, no, you can tap into that. And like, if that were true, then, all these other systems would break down over time. And it's interesting.
There's many tests that show that that's not the case.
Yeah. Standout performers from the games. Who do you have?
Matt and Tia.
Well, obviously, because they won. Do you find it like a little bit annoying?
Yes, I do.
What specifically?
Okay, if we're speaking freely.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, right. I know that those two work their asses off. Like, I mean, everyone does. To be that good, you have to. Mm-hmm. I was a little bit annoyed when Tia was like flexing and stuff after her events. Like, but why? Like, mm-hmm. be gracious. And I think Matt's fine. Like, he's really serious. Yeah. And when they were showing old videos during one of like the breaks, he wasn't like that before. No. And I don't know if that makes him a better athlete, being more serious. Some people are better if they're more serious. I don't know. But it's interesting to see the way that he has evolved as a competitor, like his personality. He's extremely serious, at least from what you see on TV. Tia is just...
I think she's just kind of awkward with like the flexing. She's been doing that for a couple years now. And it's like...
you just crushed for the like 7th time in the day your 4 other competitors. They're still working their asses off. And like you're flexing on the camera. It's like, I don't know. Yeah. To me, but I'm so the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think you're different, obviously.
And then the last event bugged me
when they did it together.
Like, I understand that event was just a mouthful and a plateful, if you will. It was a lot. So as it coming in with like basically money in the bank,
they could have sat it out.
They could have coasted or sat it out, but like coasted. Mm. But do they need to coast it together? Yeah. Like, to me, that was a bit of a slap in the face to the other competitors
who were like busting their ass trying to maneuver to get on the podium or retain their position or whatever. And Matt and Tia are just like, they're in the middle 2 lanes together. They're like they're
why
literally
are they together? Like, why do it together? Yeah. Like, I get that it was a tough workout and they had that, you know, they have that camaraderie but like have some respect for the others who are still vying for it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to cruise, but like, don't be like that.
Yeah. I mean, the argument I think is like Tour de France, you know who's won most likely, you know who's won that on the final stage when they're.
But the Tour de France is a team event to begin with.
It is.
And there's
Peloton involvement and breakaways, and no one really maneuvers for like anything on the final stage, and it's meant to be a celebration when you're riding around the whatever that center thing is in Paris.
Yeah.
And they're drinking champagne. Like that's what the final stage is meant to be.
They've been going for what is it, in a month?
It's like 21 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also in CrossFit, like no one just takes it easy.
Yeah.
Like no one in gyms, nobody in their own training. It's always for time. It's always give it your best effort. And to me, it was like, at least pretend you're trying.
Yeah.
Like I get they were still trying, but it's like, I don't know.
think
that
they
rubbed
were.
me the wrong
it's
way.
like Matt's not trying and still like.
Okay, Tia was trying at the end. She was getting dragged by Matt.
Yeah. That's fine. But like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't like that look either. I'm not sure that's what the intention was with putting them together. And it's just not something that I would do. But then again, like I've never won the CrossFit Games for 4 times or whatever.
I can guarantee you that if I was in the winning position at the CrossFit Games, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah. You know, different strokes, I guess. Yeah. So
that's our personal opinion. I will not take away from the fact that they are both exceptional athletes and so impressive. You should tell the handstand.
Right. Yeah. So the other day we have this workout programmed, and it's like every 2 minutes for 5 sets, 50-foot handstand walk as fast as you can. And like, I will preface this by saying I didn't warm up at all. Neither did you. But it really doesn't matter. I think the fastest I've ever walked 50 feet on my hands is like 16 or 17 seconds. So anyways, we do the first one. I'm like 21 seconds. You're 20 seconds. We kind of go back and forth. And I was like, I'm going to get it in under 20 seconds. And so the last one I did in 18 seconds. And like, it felt like I was flying. And I'm not like, I'm good on my hands. I'm not the best by any means. But like when handstand walks show up in workouts, I usually get pretty excited. So just for fun, I kind of like, all right, so if I maintained 18 seconds per 50 feet, how would that have put me?
And it was 100 yards, right?
Yeah,
Total?
so 300 feet. Yeah, that was the event at the games. So I like mathed it out and I was like, oh my God, I would have still lost this event by like 20 seconds.
Like 6th place.
Yeah.
Like slower than Tia.
No. I still would have beat Tia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because like Tia is laughably bad at handstand walks compared to the field. And it's like, yeah, so I would have beat her by only 10 seconds. And that's if I can maintain 18 seconds per 50 feet, which I'm not positive that I could do
with
that.
No breaks.
Yeah. So it's wild. Like they're so good.
Yeah.
It's so hard to be competitive in this sport now. But on the last event, like as soon as I saw that final event, the Atalanta, my first thought was like, oh my God, there's going to be so many people that try to do this event in their gym.
Yeah. I think that if I were a coach and if anybody said, hey, can I try that workout? I would make them prove to me that they could. The test would be this. They would have to complete event 1 at the ranch, which was 2007 reload.
Yeah.
In under the time cap for them to be eligible to even attempt the final event.
And even still, I'd probably be like, no, don't do that.
Like I
don't even see the point.
It's a cool workout for competition, and there's a reason why Dave put that at the end of the competition.
You'd be too messed up to do.
But we have friends who tested at the ranch, and they said like, no joke, this is the sorest I've ever been after any workout I've ever done.
Yeah.
And not to mention like your muscle soreness and risk of getting like rhabdo or, you know, overdoing it in some way, but like just tearing your hands.
Yeah.
Like 300 pull-ups with a vest, it's inevitable.
At the end of the workout when your hands and arms are super sweaty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super bad.
Like Haley Adams had more than 100 pull-ups to go and her hands were gushing blood.
Both of them.
Like the thought of jumping up onto a bar to do even one more pull-up with a vest.
Yeah.
Like the vest adds a whole other element.
Yeah.
It's so much force coming down. It's not even the going up that's hard with the vest. It's like the coming down.
Yeah.
It adds so much on the hands and like the shoulders.
Because like
arms.
arguably if she could have held on to her pace with the pull-ups, if her hands hadn't ripped, like she would have podiumed. Because she would have maintained the spacing.
Oh, man. And even Sam Quant at the end doing those singles.
Yeah.
That looked so hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So don't do that workout, please. I would never do that unless it was like you're in competition and like you have to earn that torture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. All right, so besides Matt and Tia, who are your standout?
I like watching Justin Medeiros.
Yeah.
He was awesome. I think he's going to be really fun to watch in the coming years.
Yeah.
And then probably Haley. I've always had a soft spot for Haley.
Yeah.
She's really something.
She's got like that thing that you can't teach in an athlete, which is just like this competitive drive that's like I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Especially considering like she is not a strong athlete. And it doesn't matter. Like she's the perfect example of you just have to be strong enough.
Yeah.
Which is always like I've always appreciated that in the sport because I'm that way.
Yeah.
You're that way.
I remember we trained with Haley Adams back in North Carolina before the 2017.
It was the first year she went as an individual to the 2017 regionals.
Yeah. So we were training and my coach had programmed for, I think it was like you and me, Jordan Adcock, Haley had come, Kenzie Riley was there.
Yeah.
It was Kim there. There may have been someone else or it was just us.
Yeah.
But basically, I think there was like, I can't remember the exact movements. I think there were like bar muscle ups and then dumbbell thrusters at like 50 or 55 pounds.
Heavy.
And Haley was this like, she still is a bit of a string bean, but she was like a major string bean back then. And like, she was struggling with those dumbbells.
Yep.
And did the workout. I was like, she's going to get hurt. Like her elbows were like hyperextending on each rep. I'm like, this girl is going to die.
But she like quitting
did not stop.
Yeah.
Quitting was, I don't think that word exists in her vocabulary.
No. Yeah. And you can see it like in her eyes.
Yeah.
So that
was really cool. I'm
not
surprised that she's doing as well as she is.
No, not at all. She's, I'm excited to watch her in the next, I mean, I'm a huge Haley fan. So, but yeah, those two were, I think it's exciting just to see kind of the like glimpses of the future of the sport. Like with Justin, who's 21 and Haley's 19. It's like, okay, there's, Matt's 30, Tia's whatever. Like they're going to retire. And then what happens? Like, I'll be excited to see what happens after that. Is there going to be someone who is very dominant again? Or is it going to go back to like, every year is there's like someone else?
What you're seeing now in CrossFit are these athletes like Haley and Justin who are coming up, and their background is, especially Justin, like exclusively CrossFit. Like that's their sport growing up. And so you're going to see, you already see amazing feats of like fitness and strength from these athletes, but now you're going to see, it's going to get it even crazier.
Yep.
Because you're not seeing athletes like coming from Olympic lifting or baseball or whatever it is, gymnastics, and like, morphing into a CrossFit athlete. You're getting like a CrossFit athlete from the beginning. Yeah. Which is going to be crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about it. It means we're doomed.
Yeah. All those great numbers that we have assigned to our names are just going to be like,
yeah. Cool. Yeah.
I suck.
Yeah, we're gonna be those people who did CrossFit
like,
quote back in the
like
day.
2013 or like there was a max hang snatch event. Yeah, and like the events or the top numbers were like 160. Yeah, and now it's like 215.
Yep, like 200 snatch
CrossFit
for
athlete.
Female is becoming like boring. Oh, you don't snatch? Who doesn't snatch 200 pounds? Yeah, it's cool though. I'm excited. I'm as excited as I've been to see the sport kind of go. So we'll see. Are you gonna compete anymore?
Yeah, I'm doing it this year.
You're doing
I'm
it.
Going for it. Yeah, I train so hard. Why not?
Yeah, I think you should.
Are you?
I don't know.
Are you gonna be my coach?
No, you said I'm your coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's enough space or bandwidth for us both to compete, and I'm kind of enjoying not competing or training that hard. So, all right, well, let's get on with it. On to the next. So we wanted to talk about this phenomenon, and it's all Alex's fault. Alex did this to me. So why don't you give the background on M&Ms and chocolates and
Okay, I mean, I am not like a food person. I like food, but I'm very much like I've never had a problem with overeating it or having like no control over it. I do enjoy certain things like anybody does, but one thing I really enjoy are like chocolate candies. So M&Ms, mini eggs, chocolate covered raisins, chocolate covered peanuts.
those are good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm like, and I like them because I don't like, I can eat them very slowly and you don't actually eat that many. Like I usually suck the candy part off and then suck on the chocolate part. Anyway, I've always kind of had like treats, in the house. Like when I was a kid and we would go out for Halloween, I would like my candy would last the whole year. Like I would take like little bits at a time. So anyways, fast forward, I would buy like big bags of M&Ms or like usually I would have like 3 different varieties, like caramel, regular,
Yes.
peanut. And after each meal, including breakfast, I would have like a couple M&Ms.
And so, but the thing is, you can't be the only one that has M&Ms.
I mean, I can. I enjoy them more when somebody else is enjoying them with me.
Is it that or is it? Yeah. Well, whatever. She would always deliver me like 4 or 5 M&Ms or whatever's in the cabinet. And so now I also eat M&Ms after meals, which is not something that I would ever do. I'm not really like a sweets person or a snacks person or whatever. But now I have this M&M thing in my life, which is fine. You can track it and account for it. It's not a big deal. And I don't dislike M&Ms, but it's just not something that would normally be a part of my routine.
Yeah. So I made it. If you've never heard of Pavlov's dogs, Meredith was basically a Pavlov dog.
Yeah, because so you cut them out of Alex is kind of doing this elimination diet again for
well, no, let's back up.
Okay.
So every time Meredith ate a meal, I would give her an M&M.
Yeah.
So like I could give her a meal and she would like be conditioned for an M&M.
Essentially operant conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so then I decided I'm going to cut that stuff out. Like all kind of processed foods.
And no gluten, like no more bites of my food.
Yeah, like I don't really eat that much gluten and dairy because it impacts my stomach.
Yeah.
But I was kind of loosening the reins on myself a little bit, so I would allow myself like bites of Meredith's English muffin, or I would have Rice Krispie squares like Kellogg's with the icing, and that has dairy in it. So it's like just tightening up a little bit.
Yeah.
And M&Ms obviously have dairy in them. They're chocolate.
And they're like refined sugar.
Yeah, and they're colored. And anyway, so I'm like, I'll just cut them out. Like, how hard is this going to be? So basically just like we finished the last bag, and like I think we took the other chocolate out of the house.
Yeah. Give it to your mom.
And you can take it from here.
Yeah. And so then me, Meredith, never had an issue with sweets, candies, like not a huge food person. I have never in my life struggled with this. Every time I finish a meal, I like walk towards the pantry and I'm like itchy. I'm like, I would kill for an M&M. Like it's this weird, but it literally, I would finish eating and I would be able to taste M&Ms. That's how strong the connection was for me who doesn't struggle with food. And it's like, now it's pissing me off because it's like, why am I craving M&Ms? I don't want an M&M. I'm actually happy that they're no longer in my house. Because I was getting to the point where I would like, kind of go and like, grab them on my own. So I was eating not just the M&Ms that Alex was giving me, but the M&Ms that I was sneaking in the pantry when no one was looking. And so it's just this like annoying thing. And it got me thinking like, there are people out there who struggle with food a lot more than I do. And like, they're dealing with this on a daily basis with multiple kinds of food. And there's this whole, and it kind of like we had this discussion on this movement that's this like anti-diet movement where you're kind of made to feel like, oh, if you can't live with certain foods in your house, like you're disordered. Like you should be able to exist in environments where highly palatable foods are
have no control over you.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, how can you do that if you've never had control over those foods? And maybe like getting them the hell out of your house is step one in having control over those foods.
Yeah.
And so just kind of it's an irritating concept because we've had clients and people tell us like, oh, well, you know, so-and-so said I should just be able to, you know, have M&Ms in my house and be able to deal with it. I'm like, well, no, like your biology is such that you're not meant to be in that situation.
Yeah. Like you're working against not just your biology, where like the people who survived in society in the like years, many, many years ago were the ones who sought out food and were able to eat high, like amounts of fat and sugar that if today you have that drive to eat, you're probably obese.
Yeah, it's the pattern of and
it's because today, like our society, food is unlimited.
Yeah.
In the olden times, for lack of a better word, ancient times, primal times, I don't know. Food wasn't like widely available. You're getting like, you know, access to sugar and fat at a very infrequent basis.
Yeah.
So you need to load up to survive. Whereas here, it's like we're loading up when we're going to, like at McDonald's, when we're going to go back to McDonald's the next day. Or like we're loading up on cake when like we can go to Costco and get croissants the next day.
Yeah.
Like
it's just like the drive to like the willingness to work for food, which used to be a really good trait, is now a trait that you have to kind of actively fight against.
Yeah.
And even if you go back a couple, like not even that far, like 2 or 3 generations where like, yes, industrialized farming is a thing, but for the most part, you're still having to work to some extent for your food. It was really not until the invention of like modern processing techniques where, okay, now we really don't have to work for our food. And modern transportation, like we just as a society got more sedentary. Yeah. So like that tendency has a more deleterious effect than it did even 50 years ago in the human population. And you see that with the rates of obesity in the United States and in Canada.
On top of that, we are so stressed and so tired as it's like people aren't sleeping enough and they're stressed to the gills about life, whether it's like just daily life or work or whatever. And when you're stressed and tired, like your willpower is already pretty much zapped. So trying to exercise more willpower to stay away from the pantry because you have Chip-Its that you used to bake cookies 2 weeks ago.
What is a Chip-It?
It's like a chocolate chip.
Oh, just call it a chocolate chip.
It's like a big yellow bag
of chocolate chips.
Okay. Like how, like you have, like why are you trying to exercise willpower that you don't really have much of to begin with when you could just get rid of the chocolate chips in the first place?
Make your life easier.
So much easier. And then you're not sitting on the couch being like, those Chip-Its are calling my name, which happens to everybody.
Oh, for sure. It happened to me. I'm like, there's mini eggs. And
yeah.
Come eat me.
It's been 5 weeks since we got rid of the M&Ms.
It's better now.
And it's better, but I still want them.
It's like I don't finish a meal and immediately want chocolate or M&Ms. Sometimes, like it happened today when I walk into the pantry to get something else, like, oh, they're not
Even
there.
My mom, who works out sometimes at our house because we have a home gym, when we got rid of the M&Ms, like it had been 2 or 3 weeks and she still goes into the pantry after her workout and she's like, oh.
Yeah, they're gone.
Your house is no fun anymore.
I got to thinking, like, has this happened to me, like, you know, at other places in my life? And I like, this dawned on me. So I was a swimmer, right? And so in the summer times when I was swimming summer league, we would have swim practices at like 7 a.m. outdoors. And I would never eat before I would swim because it's hard when there's something on your stomach. And so I would always be hungry at the end of practice, like kind of while I was still going. And maybe like a quarter mile, just a few blocks from where the pool was, because the pool was in the city, there was a Hardee's. Have you been to a Hardee's?
No.
Okay, I mean it's like kind of an Arby's type place, and they had they have biscuits because like from the South, and they had these small medallion hash browns, these like fried hash browns that came and like the same sleeve that French fries come in. And so after practice, we would go to Hardee's and we would buy these hash browns and maybe a biscuit. I don't remember what I used to eat. I distinctly remember the hash browns. They have a very distinct taste. And so it got to the point where I would be swimming, and in the last 30 minutes of practice, like I would start to just like think about these hash browns. Like they would dominate my thoughts. Like I could not get out of the pool and get changed and get to Hardee's fast enough. Like, and that's the only other time I think that it's happened. And I mean, I'm sure it's happened at other times too, but like you're so predisposed to that behavior, like you don't even realize it. That like it is operant conditioning. It is Pavlov's dog. You do one thing and you crave a reward. Cue, craving, response, reward.
Yeah.
The cue is the pool. The craving is the hash brown. The response is I take myself to Hardee's.
So there's a few things you can do. Like you can get rid of the cue, but in our scenario, like we eat meals. You can't really get over that. You can get rid of you can't get rid of the craving because that's just cued by the cue.
Yeah.
And then the response is to like go for M&Ms. If there aren't any M&Ms, then you're going to break the chain at some point.
Yeah.
And sometimes like breaking habits and like conditioned responses is extremely hard, as we're like, even it's been, like I said, 5 weeks.
Yeah.
And like today I still was like, damn,
I know.
I could really go for an M&M.
I know. So it's crazy. And that behavior pattern exists. Like it's even in non-food scenarios, like, how is it described in that book? It's like, you walk into a dark room, the cue is it's dark. The craving is you want light. The response is you turn the light on. The reward is you can see where you're going now and where the boogeyman is. So it's like, it's a pattern that exists in all types of behavior. It's just like kind of the first, like your strongest tool in that scenario is recognizing the pattern of behavior and asking yourself, okay, what can I modify? Like maybe for someone who drives home from work and they drive past a McDonald's and they always stop and get French fry or a McFlurry or whatever. The cue for them might be driving down a specific road on the way home from work. So it's gonna be very hard if you always drive down that road and you always have money on you, which we do, right? Because everybody's got a credit card. You're always going past McDonald's. It's gonna be very hard to break that. So like in that scenario, the easiest thing to change probably is the cue. So go a different way home. If you go a different way home, you're not passing the McDonald's. You don't have the craving for the McFlurry. You don't have the response of mind McFlurry. You don't eat it.
Yeah.
In a different scenario, maybe, like we said, the adjustment is not the cue. It's adding more friction to whatever it is that you would typically reward yourself with.
Yeah. So
maybe it is leaving your wallet at home. So you might be driving, you might go past McDonald's, but you don't have any money, so you can't buy the McFlurry. So it's just kind of, it's identifying where's the weakness in the chain. What's the easiest thing to modify or to make more difficult? And then the flip side is that you can make good behaviors easier. So maybe now you're driving past the Whole Foods or you're driving past the grocery store and you stop and you get yourself something to make dinner. Like, it's just being willing and able and to kind of objectively observe yourself in any given scenario that you want to change.
Yeah.
Step one.
Yeah. It's interesting, because getting rid of M&Ms or throwing out all the junk food in your house might be, considered, restrictive or, unhealthy, or like you have no control. It's like you need to learn to have control. And like you said, this is maybe one way of gaining that control. But you hear of people like getting rid of certain technology in their house. Like, all right, I want to be more productive, so I'm going to keep my phone away from me, or I'm going to get rid of the TV or something like that, to kind of get rid of that habit of like turning on the TV every night at 7 p.m. or something like that. Or, you shut the TV, whatever. Getting rid of tech. That's not seen as like unhealthy. It's not like, oh, you need to learn how to have control over your phone or your TV. It's like putting your phone away is seen as a really good thing in our society today.
Yep.
But like you say like, hey, I have to throw out all that food in my house, or I'm giving you my chocolate because I don't want it around because I can't control myself. Like that's seen as like, you're just a weak person, or, you know,
you have a disorder.
You have a disorder, and you should enjoy the food that you like. Like me getting rid of M&Ms, it hasn't impacted my life in any way.
Nope.
If anything, I feel better about the fact that I actually don't need M&Ms. It was the same thing when I cut out coffee.
Yeah.
I don't actually need coffee. Like I feel almost free from coffee because now every morning I get up, regardless of whether it's at home or even better in a hotel room, I don't have to run out the door to go and try to find coffee, because otherwise I'm going to get like, you know, withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
It's nice.
I
don't need to carry M&Ms everywhere I go, or like buy candy at the grocery store, spend the money. It doesn't, looking back on these 5 weeks, my quality of life is not diminished by not have had M&Ms after every meal. Whereas some people look like, in their mind, being able to enjoy those good foods as often as they want, they think it does impact their quality of life.
Yeah.
But like, if they were to not have, you know, their favorite food for 5 weeks, would it really be that bad?
I think you start to learn like, oh, it didn't actually bring me as much joy as I thought.
Yeah. And like, yeah, you should still include foods once in a while. I plan to enjoy an M&M in my near future, but do I need them every day? No. Do I need them at my fingertips every day? No. And like, especially when it's getting to the point for somebody where it's causing them to gain weight or be unhealthy, then that's like, all right, it's probably actually impacting your quality of life
in a negative way.
Negative way. More that it's impacting in a positive way by being able to eat it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we talk about like, I feel like we always make the connection between like dietary control and like financial freedom, because that's an easy connection to make, right? The behavior patterns are similar. There are lots of people who have massive spending problems and they're in a massive amount of debt. And it's like, in order to have financial freedom, like you have to practice a certain amount of restraint on a daily basis with your spending. You have to be budget conscious. Like you have to work hard to make the money that you have. Like you just have to be aware. You put that same behavior in to someone's nutrition, and you have someone who's hyper aware of, you know, what's going into their body. You know, maybe they're counting macros, counting calories, whatever. Like that's, you can look at that behavior and say like, oh, is that disordered? And sometimes it is, because there's more of an emotional connection. But, you know, for the most part, like you could make an argument that a certain amount of restraint is necessary in our food society to have health freedom, just like a certain amount of restraint with your spending patterns is required to have financial freedoms. Like the difference is, you know, there are scenarios in the financial world where maybe, you know, you've inherited a large amount of money from your parents. You're a, you know, second, third, fourth generation, you know, in a very wealthy family. And so you can be a spendthrift and you can spend a lot and just kind of be a turd and be fine. Thinking of someone like Donald Trump, for example. You know, you don't necessarily have to practice a great deal of financial restraint, and you know loopholes, and you kind of know how you can exist in that world and still, you know, be wealthy, whatever. That scenario does not exist in health. Like you don't inherit your health from anyone. Like your health is a result of your daily practice, what you're willing to do, like both with exercise and nutrition.
And actually we'll qualify that or explain. There are people who can eat whatever they want and still be skinny, but they are by no means healthy. If they're eating low quality food, like they're not healthy.
No, it's that whole like, I mean, I don't really like the term skinny fat. Like it's kind of an ugly term, but there is like definitely a subset of human beings who are metabolically obese, but like will present on paper clinically as healthy, of normal body weight relative to their height and waist measurements. You know, but their blood markers are very poor. They're showing signs of type 2 diabetes, metabolic disorder, heart disease, that kind of thing.
What was that like really popular movie about the guy who eats McDonald's for a certain number of...
Oh yeah, I don't remember the name of that
Super
film.
Size Me or something.
Yeah.
That like, and he went for blood. I can't. Yeah. It was so long ago that I saw that movie.
I don't actually know that I've ever seen it.
Basically was like this guy. He doesn't actually gain any weight by eating McDonald's every single day for every single meal, but his like health markers diminish very rapidly
Yeah.
by eating that food.
That's kind of like, to oversimplify the concept. It's, you know, if all you care about is the number on the scale, then calorie is really, like, calorie is the only number you need to worry about. If you care about your health in addition to your weight, then now you need to be concerned with food quality.
Mm-hmm.
If you care about your body composition, in addition, because you can't arguably, it's difficult to have body composition without health.
Yeah. So
now you have to concern yourself with macronutrients and food quality and calories
and exercise.
Yeah, what you're doing for training. So, yeah, that's kind of that's an interesting topic. We should talk about that on its own sometime.
But you were saying something about that, like, doesn't exist in fitness, health and fitness.
Yeah, you don't inherit your, like, I mean, you obviously inherit your genes, but you can't just, like, your ability to have freedom in your health and, you know, to look the way you want, to feel the way you want, to perform the way you want, that doesn't get inherited from your parents.
Yeah, that's nurture.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what you decide to do every single day. And we see, like, tons of evidence that says, like, you know, your genetics kind of load the gun. You know, but your body's going to respond to what you do to it on a daily basis or do with it. Like, rock climbers are going to look and perform a certain way. Weightlifters are going to look and perform a certain way. You know, you get to decide when you wake up every single day what you want to do with your body.
Your behavior pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
And all those people who sit there and they say, well, I just have really bad genetics. It's like, you might have bad genetics, but you can control how those genetics present themselves to a certain extent.
Yeah. The number of people who have an actual, like, genetic disorder that affects their metabolism in such a way that they are morbidly obese or, like, you know, very unhealthy in that way, like, it's less than 1%, far less than 1%. You know, you might have a more difficult set of genetics that you have to battle with. Maybe you're predisposed for high cholesterol or heart disease or whatever. But you can combat those things with nutrition and exercise. You can, like, it's possible. The longer you go without combating those things, the harder it becomes, but it's not impossible. Like, we know so many people who are on cholesterol medications, and, you know, after a year or two with us, they're like, hey, I forgot to tell you, but I stopped my cholesterol medication completely. And I've heard that story over and over and over again, just as being part of, you know, the CrossFit space. You hear that story a lot. So it's never too late to make those changes. It's never too late to decide, like, you want to change behavior, change patterns, improve your health. Like, never too late to do that.
Yeah.
So, let's wrap it up, shall we?
Yeah.
What's your favorite? So, since it was just Halloween and we were just talking about candy,
you what your favorite M&M was?
Like, color or flavor?
Not color. They all taste the same.
Blue.
Meredith.
All right.
Like, you have, okay, so remember those hazelnut ones?
Well, everybody knows the flavors. I mean, maybe they don't.
No, there's, like, new ones out.
I know. There's, like, hazelnut, pretzel, crispy almond, peanut, regular, peanut butter,
brownie,
peppermint, white
caramel,
chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a coffee nut one too.
Yeah, that one's gross.
Yeah. We did buy that one once
at
the candy store.
My favorite, because you're asking, is the crispy M&M.
Okay.
Yeah,
because you have an issue with the hazelnut ones.
I don't. The hazelnut one, like, you're putting Nutella in an M&M, and now I can't stop. Like, those are, don't buy those.
Yeah.
Don't.
The brownie ones are good too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all good.
What's your favorite?
I mean, the classics are pretty good. You can't really go wrong with peanut or the regular.
Sometimes with the regular ones, I like to suck on them and see if I can get all of the candy coating off, and just see, like, how long I can keep the M&M in my mouth without accidentally crushing it.
That's how I eat all of the M&Ms. Do you ever get a peanut without a peanut?
Yeah, that's like jackpot.
Oh yeah, it's like so much delicious chocolate.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
That's basically what a brownie M&M tastes like.
No, the brownie ones were kind of mushy.
They had brownie batter in them.
Yeah, I didn't like the brownie ones as much.
All right, what were you gonna ask me? My favorite chocolate bar?
Like Halloween candy.
Okay, so if you're in the U.S., you won't know what I'm talking about, but an O. Henry chocolate bar.
What's in that? And I'll give you the U.S. equivalent.
I think it's like, okay, it looks like, if you've ever seen Caddyshack, the chocolate bar gets gets thrown in the pool.
But what's in it?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, but that's what most chocolate bars look like.
Peanuts, caramel. I think there might be some nougat.
Yeah. So like a Babe Ruth bar.
Like fudge. I mean, I don't know. I don't think I've ever had a Babe Ruth bar.
Yeah, I think that's a Babe Ruth in the US.
All right. Well, it's delicious.
Yeah. So the ones that exist in Canada that don't exist, so like an Arrow bar is like a crunch bar.
No, Arrow is like it's like bubbles.
I know.
Oh, okay.
Like a crunch bar.
Okay.
It's like puffed rice.
No. There's nothing. Arrow bar is just chocolate.
Oh, okay.
It's got air bubbles in it.
Oh, that's bullshit. It's nasty.
It's good. You've never had one. I'll buy you one.
Okay. My favorite candy bar for Halloween is a Kit Kat.
It's my dad's favorite.
Yeah, delicious.
That's all right.
I really like I like the crispy M&Ms and I like wafer and crunchy stuff.
How do you eat a Kit Kat bar though?
Not like a psychopath.
Okay, you don't just like bite the corner
you
off.
You break them off.
Okay, and then what? And then do you just eat it normally?
Yeah.
Okay, because I like eat all the chocolate.
Oh my god, you break the shell off, don't you? Why are you like
I eat like the ends and then I eat like the sides, and then usually I'll leave the top and bottom because the chocolate layering is so thin up there and below. So I'll leave that and eat the cookie part.
That is bizarre.
I'm imagining myself doing it now and it's making my mouth water.
Here we go again with the operant conditioning. Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to tell the people?
No, I think we're not necessarily saying that you should like take all of the bad, or I shouldn't label food as bad, but more like less nutrient dense or preservative filled food out of your house or the stuff that you enjoy. It's certainly fine to have that food, but also recognize that like maybe it's better if you didn't, and like try an experiment. What would it be like if you took it out of the house or didn't even take it out of the house? Like try to will yourself not to eat it, use your willpower, and then take it out of the house and see what the difference is. I know a lot of people struggle when they've got kids and there's things, snacks and things that their kids like to eat. But
this one time, I'll tell a story and then we can leave. I forgot to tell this story earlier. So one of the things that I don't struggle with food. Peanut butter pretzels are a bit of an issue for me. One time I bought those because I was like, they're an easy carb. They've got a little bit of fat. They're delicious. They've got salt. So I bought this like tub of them from Costco, and they were in my apartment. This was back in Raleigh. And I like logged them or whatever. I would have like a cup of them a day. And all of a sudden I'm just like getting handfuls. And I'm like, okay, this is getting out of control. So I decided I would just throw them away. Cause I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. Like, I don't want to get into this habit. So I put the container of them in the garbage. And next thing I know, I'm eating fucking like peanut butter pretzels out of the garbage. And so, I was like, all right, this is not good. And so then I walked them out, and that was when I lived in that place with the parking garage. You were there, you remember. And so I walked them out all the way to the parking garage, which is far away from my apartment, and put them in the garbage in the parking garage. And I was like, all right, if I'm eating them out of the garbage in the parking garage, I've got a real problem. But I didn't. That worked. So that was the last time I ever bought peanut butter pretzels.
I know people who've like had to. I think my mom told me this once. She like had to. She throws stuff in the garbage. She has to pour dish soap on top of it.
Yeah.
She doesn't do that anymore. She doesn't buy things that trigger her like that.
Yeah.
Like chips and things. But yeah, the one time we were in Miami, this was the first time I like saw this side of Meredith, and we had the most delicious tortilla chips.
Okay, well, tortilla chips are a totally different top. That should get its own podcast.
I was like embarrassed for you.
I have a problem with tortilla
I think they were
chips.
like unlimited, and I was like, please stop.
No, they were the like thick ones. We had to pay for those. Those were delicious.
Yeah, because we got ones brought to the table.
Yeah.
And then you bought like the special, and they were like deep fried and like warm, and
like they were like
you can
triple
imagine
thickness.
Like a gooey tortilla chip.
They're so
but also
good.
Still crispy. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't buy tortilla chips either.
Yeah, I like how I sit here and I'm like, I don't have a problem with food, and then I'm like, well, I have a problem with peanut butter pretzels. And also, like, how does endless chips and salsa work? Do they just stop, or like do I die? Like, how do I stop eating chips and salsa?
I'm sure everybody has those foods.
Yeah.
I have a problem with like cake with icing.
Yeah.
Like I can't. But
Yeah.
Luckily, that only comes around once.
Whenever we decide to get cupcakes.
Anyway.
All right, well, that was fun. Tired. I made you yawn. That's the best. They say that reaction is like primal. Monkeys do it too. When one monkey yawns, another monkey yawns.
I don't think they actually know the reason why.
No, they don't.
Do they even know why we yawn?
Yeah, it's has something to do with getting more oxygen in your body to like stimulate the production of like, I don't know, serotonin.
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't actually know. It does have something to do with the oxygen. I read that one time. So like, what is a yawn?
Yeah.
Even. All right, cool. Well, we suck at ending these.
Yeah.
So
we're just transitioning into our normal conversation.
Yeah. This happens a lot. We've got some more topics coming up that I think we're going to be good. We're kind of debating on how to discuss some things that are a little more contentious. But should be good. As always, you can follow us on Instagram at Meredith_Root, at AAParker1, at Tactic Nutrition, and at Afternoon Snack Podcast, which I'm really bad at posting on, but I will try harder. Check out our website. We have a new recipe ebook that's out. That's kind of cool. It's like 10 of our favorite recipes that we make or Brenda makes, plus Alex's special, which is phenomenal. Message us, email us if you want to if you have any requests for the podcast, things you'd like to hear about. We're always open to that. So thanks for listening. As always, talk to you later.